Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Is
Hot Mic. Hot Mic. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Monday morning. This is the final week of March. Begins and there's no end to the snow in sight edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra at InForum.com. On this final Monday of the month, the 27th of March, ready to rock and roll. Hey, for you soccer players out there, you start practice today. So you can move the baseball players and the softball players out of the way because you guys need room. It's just a preview of what's to come later on in the show, everybody. Welcome to Hot Mic. Hope everyone had a great weekend. I am Dom Izzo, host of said show. Back here on a Monday, ready for a busy week. Got on tap. Lots happening. Despite the fact that there won't be any spring sports happening anytime soon, that doesn't mean that we don't have anything fun to talk about in our program. I'll remind everybody that, 3 years ago we did this show for 6 months with no sports to talk about. So the fact that we have snow on the ground that's going to be here till probably at least another month won't deter us from doing our show each and every day. So with that said, we unpack the weekend. We'll try to do it as best we can, as we had the NCAA hockey regional out at Shields Arena, set a record crowd. Just trying to, by the way, stuff that down my face after I thought nobody would be there. They, in fact, have a record crowd that comes to the game on Saturday night to see the Gophers beat St. Cloud State to go to the Frozen Four. That had my attention for a little bit. Of course, we had the Elite Eight games going on in men's college basketball, which we now have the Final Four set, which we'll show you here in a second. We have half of the women's Final Four set after 2 games yesterday. One that was a rock fight, the other that was a historic performance. We got 2 more spots up for grabs that'll happen tonight. The Timberwolves gave us some thrilling moments. We'll show you that here in a second. And we saw the conclusion of the Minnesota winter sports season, which, by the way, as I'm watching that unfold with the state boys basketball tournament, it just reinforced me to, why is North Dakota not play this final weekend in March? It makes no sense, especially with the stats I'm going to hit you later on in the show, and we have another class of basketball coming, that there is a weekend sitting there just waiting to be used. Why not take advantage of that? Makes a heck of a lot of sense to me. Meanwhile, Minnesota had a great basketball weekend from the Class A championship. I watched 3 of the 4 title games. The Class A game was great. The 2A game was entertaining. Albany, who beat DGF on Friday night, ended up winning the whole thing. And we'll show you what happened in the 4A game with Wayzata and Park Center. That was tremendous. So a lot to encapsulate here over the last couple days since we've been with you, and excited to do that in parts. Not everything, in parts at least, for our show this morning. Let's start with the Wolves. Last night in Golden State, playing the Warriors. They had not won against the Warriors on the road since 2016, but they got some reinforcements last night. Karl Anthony Towns, we know, is back. Anthony Edwards, back after that horrific ankle injury that he suffered a couple weeks ago. In a game that was tight, Naz Reid just continues to deliver. Hits a corner 3, put the Wolves up 4. Every chance, though, that Golden State had an opportunity to rally, they would, because they've got that guy. They got Klay Thompson on the team. They've got Steph Curry on the team. They've got Jordan Poole on the team. But Cat made a couple of monster threes. That one puts the Wolves up 1. Now, same score, 94-93. You can't give them any space. Jordan Poole gets open from a Thompson pass. The Warriors go back up by 2. Crazy stretch here. our guy slow-mo, Kyle Anderson gets his hand on it, forces the steal, and then Cat takes the three and drains it. I'm watching this happen live. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Don't shoot it. Of course he does and drains it and gives the Wolves the lead. Now it's 98-96 here. I don't know what happened. Poole tries to get past to Curry. I don't know what's happening there. The Warriors turn it over. Wolves make 1 of 2 at the line, so they get one last chance. Curry shot, who, by the way, I thought that was going in because it's Steph, off the iron. And the Timberwolves win in the Bay Area for the first time in 7 years. 7! 99-96 is the final. Crazy finish in this game. Cat knocks down those 2 monster threes, finishes with 14 points. Reed goes for 23. He was great. Gobert was good. Anthony Edwards had a quiet night, had 13 points. He wasn't really involved in the end of the game. He's outside of playing some lockdown defense. They hold Steph to just 20. The Warriors had won 9 games in a row, as you could see, coming in at home into last night's game. The Wolves go and win it. Now, there's not much time to celebrate because they got to come back and play tonight against a really good Sacramento team. But now they've won 3 games in a row. And as we've said here over the last little bit, if you have any kind of winning streak or any kind of losing streak, it's going to drastically affect where you are in the standings. Look at Dallas. Look what's happened to the Mavericks now. They've fallen all the way down out of the playoffs. They've lost 4 games in a row, and they sit a game behind Oklahoma City for the last playoff spot into the play-in tournament. The Wolves sit 7th, which means they would host the Pelicans. The Pelicans have won 4 in a row. The Wolves have won 3 in a row. The Lakers lost a terrible game yesterday to the Bulls, even with LeBron coming back. And now Minnesota's just a half game back of Golden State for the 6th spot. So there you have it. They've played 75 games. They got 7 to go. And like I mentioned, they've got Sacramento tonight on the road. Later this week, it's the Suns coming up. I mean, it is not easy. This is the last 7 for the Wolves. At Sacramento, at Phoenix, home for the Lakers on Friday. That might be the season right there. Home for the Blazers. Portland's given up. At Brooklyn. At San Antonio, who's terrible. And then, by the way, the Wolves have stunk against the teams that are really bad. And then they end the season at home with the Pelicans in 2 Sundays from now. How about that stretch to end the season? So it is just going to be nail-bite central between now and the end of the year for the Wolves. But they get a monster win last night. I watched the 4th quarter to that as the Iowa game got out of hand, and Caitlin Clark did what she always does. They flipped on the end of the Wolves game. That was highly entertaining basketball. It was nerve-wracking as you know what, but that's what the Wolves do. They're going to drive you crazy, and they got the win there last night. Now, from there to the college game, and we'll start on the men's side as the Final Four is set, the most unlikeliest of Final Fours I've seen in my lifetime. It's historic, considering there's no 1 seeds there. There's no 2 seeds there. There's no 3 seeds there. And we can get into this later on in the show of why. I don't know if that's nearly as interesting to me as the teams that are there. Florida Atlantic, which, by the way, had a great season out of Conference USA. They won 33 games. Terribly underseeded. They were a 9 seed. They should have been at least a 6. Makes it. Connecticut, the blue blood that's only left, whoops Gonzaga. Not sure anybody saw that coming. Not the fact that Connecticut could win, but they beat Gonzaga by 1,000,000. Miami outlasts Texas. That's after Miami knocked off Houston. Basically made Jim Nantz cry on the air on Friday night, which I might get into that here later on in the show. I thought that was not great from CBS. Because you could openly tell that Nantz was rooting for his alma mater to win. He was involved. Kelvin Sampson, the coach, brought him into the team breakdown during shoot-around that CBS filmed. Like, They made no bones about it. I understand Nance is a Houston grad, and this is his final tournament that he's calling in Houston. So, I mean, all the storylines were there, and Miami said, well, screw that, we're going to win. And then the game yesterday that everybody's talking about, maybe for all the wrong reasons, considering how the game ended between Creighton and San Diego State. Two really good basketball programs that battled it out in a fabulous game that had everything you could want. Two really good coaches in Brian Dutcher and Greg McDermott, former Bison coach. Our guy Baylor Shireman scoring down low, tied the game up at 50. This is why Shireman left South Dakota State, to play in high-level, big-time environment like that was yesterday. Now, here's the play that everybody's going to remember. With Derek Trammell driving, and he's fouled by Ryan Nebhard. And you're going to see there with the left arm, they hadn't called basically anything in this entire game. Mac was rightfully upset. Trammell goes to the line. They put time back on the clock. He clanks the first one, which if there's any basketball gods out there, you're thinking he's going to miss both of them, and we're going to have overtime. But he makes one of two. So then they set up with Shireman, by the way, the former high school quarterback that he is, with a football pass that gets tipped, that goes out of bounds, and they reviewed this interminably long to see if there was any time to put back on the clock. And you can see there, I mean, they let that clock go to zero. And I hate the fact that it ended on a review, but it did. And sends San Diego State to its first Final Four in program history. Shireman was beyond consolation, as Creighton was that close to its first trip to the Final Four. And San Diego State will play Florida Atlantic in the first semifinal on Saturday. I tweeted this out, that the Final Four matchups, San Diego State and Florida Atlantic, Connecticut and Miami, sounds like a couple of bowl games you'd have after Christmas. It's just that's the lineup. And you can lament where college basketball is. I'm sure some would want to see Duke and Kentucky and Kansas there. I mean, how many times have we done that? Or you could have some fresh blood. And here's the thing. You can be upset about how Miami's done it with its monstrous NIL deals, or you can get on board. Creighton did the same thing, folks. It's not like the Blue Jays were out there just, we're going to nickel and dime it and we're going to find the best high school players. They paid 6 figures to get Baylor Shireman to come to their school. Okay? It's not like they were out there just Pollyanna, that they were, well, we'll find the best high school seniors and we're going to recruit them. Yeah, they've done that, but they also went and spent money, a lot of NIL money, to get Shireman there. And there was a reason why Creighton was a top 4, top 5 preseason team. So, I mean, this is again how it is. We talk about adapt or die from Moneyball. Again, that's right where it is with college basketball. You're either on board with this or you're not. The portal is a thing to use to your advantage if you so choose. And name, image, likeness is sitting there. Again, there's no guardrails on it. If you want to use it, go for it. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it where we'd love to see the Blue Bloods there. Okay, well, the Blue Bloods are going to go and get every great high school player they can. But also, it allows for other teams, maybe more experienced teams, to go and grab guys out of the portal to be a senior-heavy team with guys that maybe played 4 years at one school and then coming here for their bonus year, or 3 years at one school and spending 2 years at another. That's how you play the game now. So I got no problem with it. I really don't. Will it translate to people watching? I don't know. I think you might get more casual people to watch just because the names are so different. People love underdog stories. I mean, Florida Atlantic can embrace that. I mean, San Diego State How about for them? This is about the best audition for the Pac-12 you could potentially have. If the Pac-12 is still going to be a league, San Diego State's sitting out there saying, take us. And Connecticut, people forget, UConn, well, its women's program suffered a stunning defeat on Saturday. First time since 2005 they're not in the Elite Eight. The men have won 4 championships. It's not like they're some also-ran. They've been amazingly good over the last 20-plus years. In Miami, well, welcome to the new age of college basketball in Division I and big-time hoops. Lastly, before we wrap up our opening segment, I think everybody knows the fan club that I have with Caitlin Clark and the Iowa women's team. For people that have not watched her play or her team, they got that experience last night in the Elite Eight. Iowa facing Maryland for a spot in the Final Four. And the best part about why Clark is so good is that she consistently delivers in the time where it's needed the most. And I said Maryland. They played Louisville last night. Every time that they needed a basket, and Haley Van Lith was great, should not be discounted of how great a player is. She is. Clark, you can see there, just pulls up, drops one down. Every time that Iowa would see Louisville cleak back into the game, they'd knock down another basket. It was not just Clark. Sonato's a really good player. Warnock's a really good player. Grace Marshall's a dynamite player, but they've got her. And she was creating points for her teammates. This was the part in the game right off the start of the second half. Louisville cut it to 1. And then just like that, Clark said, nah, we're not messing around. She playmakes and makes a fabulous pass like that. Then she'll say, all right, well, give me a little space in your eye. And the best part was that ESPN started putting up the triple-double alert on the scoreboard because it was happening. The fantastic dish there. She does go for a triple-double, which is the first ever in the history of the NCAA women's basketball tournament. 41 points, 10 rebounds, 12 assists. And even she grabbed a late rebound after she had already been credited for the 10th. She didn't know that. As Iowa makes it to the Final Four for the first time in 30-some-odd years. 1993, I think? 93 or 95 was the last time Iowa was there. 97-83, they beat Louisville last night. And the best part about this now, Clark gets at least another week in the spotlight. Iowa lost in the second round last year in the tournament. Now, this build-up, which hopefully will be there between now and Friday night. Friday night is the women's semifinals in Dallas. That this attention can only go up. And there's the likely potential that Iowa's going to play South Carolina in the national semifinals. So you've got the player of the year against the best team, the team that's won 40-some-odd in a row, against the stud coach in Dawn Staley. I mean, that's the matchup you want. Preferably you wanted the national championship game, but this is, it's okay. And actually, it's setting up. LSU made it with Kim Mulkey, former Baylor coach, and they're going to play the winner of Virginia Tech. And I believe Maryland actually is the other game tonight in the women's tournament. That you have a dynamite potential there for South Carolina LSU to play in the national championship game. And those two coaches just frankly don't like one another. So you have that dynamite potential there. But again, I've been pleading for it. I think people have responded. The women's tournament has been great. Clark is just must-see TV. That game Friday night will be must-see TV. And a reminder, the national championship game Sunday on WDAY. Pack show coming up for you here on this Monday. As we mentioned, a lot to unpack. We'll do our best of the weekend coming up here in just a couple minutes. At 9:35, Jeff Kolpack will join us to recap the weekend. Kolpack's ready to unload on his thoughts on moving the golf season to the summer. I know he's got other thoughts on spring sports as well. I'll let him get his platform here. This is a topic I think that people know is near to my heart, so we'll dive into that coming up at 9:35. At 10 o'clock, we'll welcome Steve McAndrew to the show. Of course, for basketball fans in the area, they know that name. Steve, of course, a state champion at Fargo South, went on and played at the University of North Dakota, had a dynamite basketball career. His son may have already eclipsed it. His son, Jackson, helped the Wayzata Trojans win the state tournament on Saturday night, had a dynamite game. His son already has basketball offers from Xavier, Creighton, Wisconsin, Nebraska, and it's only probably going to go up from there. 6'9". He'll join us coming up at 10 o'clock. And at 10:35, Jake Kava will join us here in studio. North Dakota State senior defensive end, back for a 6-year of eligibility after a tough injury to his shoulder that suffered during the middle part of last season. He'll visit about how the rehab process is going with spring ball back underway and the food drive that's going on at NDSU. They're wrapping that up. He'll join us in studio coming up at 10:35. So a packed Monday show. A lot to get to here to start the week. We'll take a break. Hot Mic is off and rolling. We're back after this on WDAY Extra and InForum.com. Busy Monday here. We got lots to get to, including now, as we do each and every Monday, our best of the weekend. Let's fire it up. We'll start in the XFL over the weekend. Yes, we are your home for XFL highlights, especially when we got a former Bison tearing it up like we did last weekend. Darius Shepard did it again for the St. Louis Battlehawks in a matchup with the Vegas Vipers, played apparently at a high school field, ? Shepard found the end zone not just once, but twice. There you see the touchdown here from former Alabama quarterback A.J. McCarron. Might be the MVP of this league. Shep is, I think, opening some eyes. There was his first touchdown. His second might be better. Stupid platform camera guy in the way. Again, where are they playing this game? Scores his second touchdown. The replay angle is better for it anyway to give you how dynamite this was. 7 receptions, 79 yards, 2 touchdowns in the St. Louis win. They're now 4-2 in the XFL. He's got 27 catches on the season now, 3 touchdowns. I don't know. He got a shot last year with the Broncos out of his great run in the USFL. Not sure if he's going to go play in the USFL after the XFL gets done, but he's been all right. I mean, we've already known that. He actually had a chance for another touchdown that he dropped earlier in that game as well. I'm not sitting here and telling you I'm watching a ton of XFL football, but he had a chance actually for 3 touchdowns in that game. Ended up with 3 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks for our guy Shep in the XFL. Now, we mentioned this in our top segment here from the Minnesota State Basketball Tournament. And we're not going to show you a ton because I don't want to spoil it for our 10 o'clock guest. But if you watch the Wayzata Park Center game, A, there's about 4 Division I guys playing in the game, which was entertaining in its own right. 2, the one that stood out the most was Jackson McAndrew. He was phenomenal in the game on Saturday. 6'9", and at one point just decided he was going to take over. Here, look at this, the step-through drive and finish. Spencer Tollickson, the former Gopher center, who was the analyst for the games with Dave Lee, called him McNasty after this play. He did it a couple of times. That was sensational. He scored 13 of Wayzata's last 14 points in the championship game. You can see all of Target center stand. I mean, that alone was fantastic. The pull-up 3. I mean, with that kind of size, that's why he's got the amount of schools that are talking to him. He finished with 25 points in the state championship game. And I imagine his phone is ringing not only from our guy Eric Peterson, myself, but some probably high-profile coaches are going to be calling. We'll talk to his dad about that coming up in our second hour. But congrats to him. That was fun to see. Speaking of phone blowing up, when we had this guy on our show last spring, this time last year, the groundswell was starting to begin for Kindred's Riley Sunrap. It hit another level this week. When you have your choice of going to what Power 5 school wants you, that's a heck of a spot to be in. And that's what Riley's at right now. Riley toured in Lawrence, Kansas, in Manhattan, Kansas, and then Lincoln, Nebraska over the last 5 days. I talked with his dad, Ryan, last night that wanted to get on campus to the schools that he is really interested in to get a closer look at them. These were unofficial visits, by the way. The officials will come this fall. I hate to tell you, for you Bison fans who are hoping that he might give them a hometown discount, so to speak, it ain't happening, folks. This is big time. From what I've been told, two sources have told me it's Minnesota, it's Kansas, it's Kansas State, and Nebraska. Those are the schools it's between. Now, Riley hasn't formally narrowed down a list, but from what I've been told, that's where he sits at. So for Bison fans that were hoping that they could keep another great North Dakota player within the borders, when you had, like when the University of Miami came in and offered, it probably changed things of what this young man was going to do. So I would anticipate, here we are, we're almost to April 1, probably a decision, I'd say, in the next 2 months. And then a roller coaster ride for Kindred's football season in 2023, which the Vikings, again, are going to be great. But we're going to, like we did with Andrew Langing a couple years ago, the Century standout who signed and now playing with Chris Kleiman at Kansas State, another Power 5 player coming out of the state of North Dakota. It's cool stuff. We'll save our last best of the weekend for our next guest. We'll break here. Jeff Kolpack around the bend. Lots to get to with Jeffrey, including how he's going to revamp the spring sports season in North Dakota. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns on a Monday morning. We're back after this.
It's that time. An author,
Offensive production, number 1. Number 2, forgot.
golfer,
It'd be like going on a 3-person best shot, and we were saying, Kolpack, you got to make a 25-footer every time. You wouldn't putt first. I'd have Tim putt first.
and one heck of a TD personality.
This game is for the Cooper Cup.
It's the Forum's Jeff Kolpack.
4. I should have yelled 2.
Now, normally in this segment, we don't normally start with birth announcements, but we have enjoyed this on a Monday. I did have it on my best of the weekend, but it seems fitting with the host of the golf show here that the Olsons are expecting. And she dropped this news on your show?
Well, she starts her season in 3 weeks in Hawaii. And so as long as she's in town, I wanted to, record a segment with her in studio. And so last week, I think it was, Wednesday or Thursday, she comes into the studio and we record our show. And I think it was 3 segments. Yep. And at the beginning of the 3rd segment, we're talking about, and I said, I know you don't want to, you once told me you never want to play this game until you're 50. And I asked her about the timeline. Has that come into more clarity? Right. And she goes, well, maybe Grant and I are expecting. I went, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yes, it is.
So in a way, the golf show has broken one of the biggest pieces of news because Amy is such a public figure,
Absolutely.
and she's one of the greatest athletes that this area has ever seen.
And Grant's not like he's chump change either,
No, and so this is has an effect on her LPGA season because she's going to try to play into June until she doesn't feel like she can play anymore.
She's expecting in September?
September.
Okay. All right.
She's hoping maybe if she qualifies U.S. Open, because she's conditional status this year, not full status. Right. And so she's not qualified for the U.S. Open, but if she plays well, she's not far away.
Boy, the U.S. Open, though, is what? Late
July.
June? Okay, it's July this year.
5 to 8, I want to say, at Pebble Beach.
Oh, gosh. Well, you want to
and
get there.
she'd love to play at Pebble Beach, obviously, but what have I done this over 30 years in this business? That's a new one.
That's pretty cool.
That's a new one.
Pretty cool.
Breaking some news on family matters.
Well, congratulations to the Olsons. I texted Grant on Saturday because his alma mater, Wayzata, won the basketball championship, and I had seen the announcement on Instagram, like, boy, that's a heck of a 1-2 combo there.
Yeah,
so.
and we'll see what this is like down the line. I asked her about, is retirement part of the issue here? Because, again, she told me a few years ago that at some point that her and Grant want to start a family, and maybe that'll be but she said that's a decision down the line. Take it year by year and just leave it at that.
Your story, though, does illustrate she changed swing coaches.
She
Saw
did.
that.
Yep.
I mean, last year was
the gentleman in Charlotte
was dreadful. That was not a good season for her. So I'm obviously looking for a big bounce back. And now with this, I mean, that you can only play for so long here in 2023 now.
Yeah, she was with Ron Stockton in California for a few years,
right?
who took her game to the next level, as she said. But at some point, they just reached this plateau, and it was a good separation, if you will, for a swing coach and a player. And she just felt like she needed a different set of eyes on her swing, which you're a pro athlete. And so, like she told me, I'm the CEO of my company, of me.
Yes.
Especially
in golf.
I need to make these decisions because when you don't make the cut, you don't make any money.
Yep.
I mean, there's no job security in golf unless you're in the live tour, I guess.
Yeah. Great story there. So congratulations. You can read more about that with Jeff at InForum.com. All right, buddy boy. You have...
All right. Do we have the Rocky theme?
We can drop the gloves now. So you have been, the last couple days, ready to fix at least the boys' golf schedule for...
I'm just talking about golf and spring season.
Okay.
You want to move everything back 2 weeks.
I want to move back
I don't think
month,
you can.
actually.
I don't think you can.
I think
you got to tough out the other sports.
You tell me your golf theory, and then I'll tell you why.
Well, golf is different because you're not running from hole to hole. At least those other sports, you can some semblance of staying warm. But in golf, you're walking.
Tennis, you're not staying warm, man.
Oh, you're moving in tennis. Are you kidding me?
Come on, no, you're sitting in between points. Come on.
Oh, come on. That's like 10 seconds. So
give me your golf theory here.
And in golf, the courses are not in good shape. They're brown grass. The weather is never conducive to good play. You're not playing your best. And we're talking about the boys' season. The girls are in the spring. That's fine because it's at the end of the year. And in golf, you can play more between mid-July and the end of August than you ever could in the spring.
Yep. In terms of just course, right.
You can play every day.
Yep.
And you could literally start your season in mid-July. After the Dakota Junior Tour, it goes up to about mid-July. There might be a couple tournaments afterward. And some people say, well, they don't play in the Pine. Well, I'll play in the Pine. I don't care. Go ahead. That's fine. But you could play more in that period of time than you usually can in the spring, and certainly this spring.
So my only thing on golf, I would say, I'm with you there. I just wonder about availability, though. Everybody wants to get on play. They're going to wait till, June,
Did you
July
see the
and do
Twitter
that,
post of
though.
the guy who manages the 2 golf courses in Mandan? He said, we certainly could make available time. And you can play in the morning in the summer. During the school year, you cannot play in the morning. You got to play at afternoon or weekends.
Well, yeah. And that's honestly when they play during the spring sports season is they play in the morning.
And courses,
that's when they play.
Courses, Dom, you know this. They shut down all the time for private events.
They do.
They can take turns shutting it down for a high school tournament. Not a big deal.
Okay, now I want to shift to a sport close to your heart because your son played it, you played it in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
So baseball has only been sanctioned, I think, since 2000 for Class A, right? What about moving it back? Because it's idiotic. You'd agree with me. They started practicing last week. We have more evidence now over the last decade that we've been inside than outside on March 15th or whatever it is.
I was never big on high school baseball, but so be it. It's more participation.
But if you were to move it back a month,
well, you can't
now
because
you're cranking on the Legion season.
Legion's too established.
Here's my thing. Okay, you saw what's going on with Fargo Post 400 now. They're playing.
You're going to see more of that then.
So does that mean the elimination of high school baseball?
Well, maybe.
Davies suffered. Davies' best
big
players
time.
were all playing with Post 400. I think you maybe go that route than moving the season back.
If you stick high school into June, you can just kiss goodbye a lot of good players because they're not going to do that. They're going to play the Legion ball. They're going to do what 400's doing. 400's already playing.
Would you say that happens in Class B as well?
No.
Class B, I think, still
Class B's been playing baseball forever.
I think that's okay. Class A baseball, which,
but if you stick Class A baseball into mid-June, again, you're going to if you're a Post 2 player,
yep,
and you're gonna start Legion ball in mid-May. That's what's gonna happen.
Tommy Simon, let's take him. He's probably the best baseball player in the state right now, right? Shanley kid.
Yep.
Okay,
Best
he's
prospect for
right.
sure.
He's gonna go play at Nebraska, right? He's gonna go play with Post 2 because theoretically competition level is better than playing against, and I'm gonna pick on Valley City. You know what I mean? Like that's where the trend would go on that. I don't know if it's the end of the world that high school baseball were to go away. I don't know.
You're going to lose
Class A.
participation, though.
Yeah.
You will lose participation, and that's a downfall.
But right now,
it'll go back to like when I played.
right.
We started late April, early May.
When did you start?
Somewhere around there.
That makes
Play
sense.
70, 80 games a year.
It makes sense.
But again, that's 14 kids in one program at varsity, and then you have the 400. So you're going to lose participation.
I made a joke on a commentary I did 4 years ago when we had a particularly rotten spring that the first outdoor track meet was going to be the state meet. We're close on that, Kolpack. I think we had 3 last year before we had the state meet in Bismarck. It's going to happen again. How is that fair? And they do not want to mess with the state meet moving off Memorial Day weekend. I've been told that, but I don't know what else you do, because right now having the season end with all the sports on the first weekend of June
it's miserable.
Seems terrible to me.
Last year with my son playing at Minnesota Duluth,
Right.
I was wearing my parka into May. I mean, we were just freezing watching games in Duluth with the wind coming off Lake Superior, and you're just huddled up, and it's like mid-May, you're going, and the players, I mean, it wasn't a lot of fun. My son had another year of eligibility. I think one reason he didn't want to play
because of the weather.
It's miserable playing in the spring.
You are a North Dakota native. Is this something you think that actually would get changed? Do you think there is some momentum to move? Because I look at it, Minnesota and New York. I'll take the two states I've lived in the most outside of North Dakota. They both start their school years after Labor Day. Is there any momentum? Can we do that?
I'm not feeling the momentum. Are you? Is North Dakota...
Not on that.
No.
Not on that. I think for the spring coaches, though, this is about as vocal as I've heard them, and they've been vocal over the last couple of years. Say this is moronic. Why are we doing this? Like when I've gone to the state B, I'm like, we got track practice on Monday. What? I mean, come on. What are we doing? Soccer open practice today. Where are they going? You know what? Yeah, great. We've got all these turf fields. It's still whatever it is, 10 degrees outside. We're not going to be outside for another month. Easy.
Well. Temperature-wise, this is historically bad. We're going to set a record for most days
under 40.
Under
here.
40.
Yeah.
Snow, at least in soccer and in track, you can move the snow away and you can start practice. Baseball, you cannot. There are no turf fields in this town.
Right. I mean,
and if there's one, I mean, you're going to get like 8 teams playing on one.
How many teams went to Bismarck? Remember a couple years ago that they were trying to get out there.
But there's so many more turf fields for soccer.
Yes.
Almost every high school now is a turf field. Certainly every high school will never have it'll be decades before that happens.
My last point on this, and then we'll break because I want to talk some buys and stuff, that people say, well, Don, wait, what happens when we have a nice spring? Okay, well, that's great. They actually get time outside to practice instead of, hey, we've been indoors, and then your first time outside, you're playing a game.
Can we ask Eric who won this argument? Eric, who won? Hello?
He needs a break. A commercial break to decide on it. That's the easy way out. Let's take one anyway. And the Bison were busy over the weekend, football-wise, offering some North Dakota guys. We'll discuss that. Early observations from spring football, a little bit else with Jeff Kolpack. We'll do that on the other side of the break right after this.
We have a winner.
Yeah. All right, Eric, let us know. What do we got here? Who came out on top here? We're waiting. Yes?
Hello.
We can't hear you, so if you can't, just talk to me here.
I know. Yes. I thought the odds would be stacked against me. The deck would be not in my favor.
I got a couple emails here we're going to get to as well. I don't know. It's a fun talker to have. I just don't know if there's anything actually going to happen on it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if anything's going to
I just don't think the NDHSAA is one to really, crank stuff and just, change things on a whim because of weather. Yeah. I just don't see that happening.
Well, the pushback I've always got is, well, what happens when we have a great spring? Well, we haven't. But that's the thing. It's been
we were golfing in March, 2019 or something like that. It was mid-May or mid-March when they opened, but
yeah, it's not great.
What is going on? I mean, I'm walking in this morning to the station. I feel like it's early January.
Right? Exactly.
What is going on?
Not great. What is going on is a great way to segue. Florida Atlantic, Connecticut, Miami, and San Diego State. I joke that this is a great, 2 bowl games you'd have right after Christmas. What do you make of this for the Final Four?
Who are the teams? Parity.
Yeah.
37 people.
Yeah.
That's what Eric said.
Out of 20 million. Yep.
Wow.
So I'll ask you this, because is this how the game is changing where people are, programs are understanding what the portal is and what NIL is, we can use it to our advantage. Miami certainly has done that. I mean, Creighton was this close away, and Creighton paid a ton of money, we know, to get Baylor Shireman. San Diego State has done that. I think, there's a lack of quote-unquote blue bloods there, but these are now the teams that understand how to work the system.
I think what you're seeing is more teams like the Creightons and the San Diego States of the world are paying NIL and paying players. And I think we thought it'd just be a Power 5 thing. Nope. Creighton, every player is 6 figures on scholarship.
Right. And they paid Shireman well over 6 figures to get him to come to Omaha. I just think this is where it's going. Now, I imagine the Blue Bloods will get their act together, pay more if they need to, get whatever mid-major player they need to rise up and come to their level. It's probably just a matter of time how that works.
And ultimately, as long as we started the show talking about baseball and in these sports, the minor sports will eventually pay for it.
Oh, yeah.
Because now that everybody's going to the Blue Bloods we need all our, and we need to pay guys $1 million a year.
Yeah.
And so
football's doing that already.
And where's that going to come from? Well, it's these people that put their money into a general scholarship fund. Now they're going to go, I want all this to go to the men's basketball program.
Yep. So the collective there for that.
So your
team.
lacrosse, your track and fields, all those.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's what NDSU is concerned about. If you start a total NIL, are people going to say, okay, I want all my money instead of going to the general fund?
Yeah, right. Just go to football.
Which I don't think so. I think there's room for both.
Right.
At this level.
That was my argument. You can do both. You can have team makers be its thing, but also if they want a collective for football, which they should have, they can do that. I think I know enough people that have enough money around here that would be able to do both. They got $53 million of private funds just sitting up there that we're going to be inside later.
Yeah,
this
you can do some cool things too. Here's $50,000. I also want you to do some charity work.
Yeah,
that's your job.
It's funny to see how this is flipped now that everybody seems to have caught up now with the smaller schools. I think it'll be a fun Final Four. I think it's going to be entertaining. Bison have had only one spring practice. Their next one comes tomorrow. There's not a whole lot I want to draw from that. I am interested, though. They had their first junior day this past Friday, and they offered a kid that Fargo North's Peter Haugo got offered his first D1 offer, part of the North runner-up team. He's been a good player the last couple of years. I'm intrigued to see where this goes with Mr. Haugo.
Good running back. I think they want him on defense.
Yes.
He's a good-looking athlete. He's strong and either a safety or a linebacker. To me, he looks like a linebacker. He's got the size to play that.
I talked with Peter last night. They're telling me what he's telling them is linebacker, potentially safety, that he could play, that they're looking at him at the next level.
How many good linebackers has NDSU had were great tailbacks, like Travis Beck?
Carl Littlejohn looked great at. Carlton played quarterback too. I mean, those two guys come right to mind on that. Wisniewski was a pretty good offensive player in Sparta, Wisconsin, if I remember correctly. So, that fits the mold on that. And he's been really good. And we were talking off air.
How good of a linebacker would Hunter Lipke have been?
Really good.
Oh my goodness.
Really, really good. I think the Northsiders are going to be A-OK again in football next season. We look at
they have a good run of athletes going.
With obviously they won the state championship a couple weeks ago in basketball. That football is going to be right in the competition again for Class A next year.
Well, now you have to manage expectations like anything. So that's a different thing. It's a new thing.
You wrote the story on both Cam Miller, Braylon Henderson, and Zach Mathis went on spring break and worked together. This is an NFL thing that guys do in the offseason. Hey, we're going to go quarterback, wide receivers, get on the same page. They ended up doing that a couple weeks ago.
I'm at the dentist this morning, and my dentist goes, Cam Miller's back?
Yeah.
I go, well, and this is day everybody's back.
Correct.
In COVID, if
Yep.
you want to. So he's back. And
Cam's actually a senior in terms of.
he has another year after this.
Correct.
So
Correct.
I wonder if the fact he's listed as a senior, if this will be it, or does he want to go 6 years of school? I don't know.
It'll be that's a storyline to follow throughout the off season, but I think him getting in some extra work with those two guys.
Well, it's what
both
it
seniors,
takes.
absolutely,
and maybe that's a product of not winning a national title.
Maybe
is you're no longer the fat cat around, and you're chasing now. You're hunting. You're hunting South Dakota State. You no longer are the hunted, which is a new thing.
Right. I glad you brought that up before we go. I had 3 people say to me they watched the press conference. They did not like Ence's answer to your question, the one about is NDSU vulnerable. They didn't like Ence's answer to that. What did you make of that? He said, I'm not paying attention on the outside, and what I mean the typical coach's answer on that. I tend to agree with what you're saying. I totally believe that. I think the Bison sit there and like, wait a minute, is there a chance for somebody to get us that?
Is he wasn't telling exactly how he feels.
Yeah.
And he wasn't saying exactly what he's telling his team.
What do you think he's telling his team?
You don't want you need to hunt.
Yeah.
Go hunt.
Yeah.
You need to do extra work.
Yeah.
You guys, you're no longer national champions. I mean, I don't even think he has to tell his team a lot. These guys know.
They were there on the field.
They were there.
Yeah, they saw what happened.
They saw themselves get pummeled by South Dakota State. I don't know if you, as a coach, you shouldn't have to say much.
Theoretically not, no. It wasn't like
you should not have to say much.
It's not like SDSU got a game-winning field goal with 3 seconds left to win the national championship. That was a decisive victory.
If you're the D-line and you're in the weight room, I think you need to put a little extra in because you got manhandled last year.
No doubt about it. It's funny. I had a couple people say that to me at the end of the press conference.
If a coach has to say anything after that, maybe you shouldn't play the game.
No doubt. Great stuff coming by, man. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. We will see you
Thanks, Eric, for the victory. Appreciate it.
We'll see Kolpack on Wednesday for Pro Day, which, of course, will be live up at NDSU for that. We'll take a break. We come back. We'll start hour 2. One of the great stories of the weekend was produced out of the Twin Cities from a guy who starred up here in his high school days. We'll do that when hour 2 starts right after this.
This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Welcome back, everybody. Monday morning edition, Hot Mike, WDAY Extra, InForum.com. Lots to get to. NDSU senior defensive end Jake Kava will join us in studio before we say goodbye on this Monday. We were mentioning off the top of the show when we did our best of the weekend of everything we were taking in, including the wrap-up of the Minnesota boys basketball season, which happened on Saturday night at Target Center. The 4A championship between Wayzata and Park Center was a dynamite basketball game, high level. Numerous, probably Division I basketball players on the floor. One stood out among all of them. Jackson McAndrew was just fantastic. We showed you a little bit of his highlights earlier on as he scored 25 points in the state championship game as Wayzata beat Park Center to win the championship. The bloodlines are pretty good for hoops in that family. People may know his dad, who was a standout at Fargo South to win a state championship there, went on to play at the University of North Dakota, and he's good enough to join us on our show this morning as Steve joins us on this Monday morning, which I know it's been a complete whirlwind for the last couple of days. I appreciate the time. Do you have to show you have the old VHS tapes to show your sons of, you could ball in your days?
The funny thing is I tried once, but the DVR that I still had didn't work, or the tapes were too old. So I haven't been able to show them much of that at all. So I'd like to, but unfortunately I don't have a lot of footage from the old days.
Tell me about what the last 48 hours has been like for you and your family.
It's been a lot of emotions. It's just been crazy. We had a lot of family and friends in here for the tournament, so that was fun. A lot of people at the house. And then from the game, after the game, it was busy because the game didn't get over until pretty late. Then we go over to the high school and celebrate that with the fans and the band and cheerleaders, and cut down the nets back at the high school. Then there was some late night celebration, obviously, and then actually Wayzata has their basketball banquet the day after. So 11 a.m. the next day, we were already in for the whole high school banquet, which lasted probably about 3.5 hours. And so, all the text messages I got, it took me, I'm still responding to them all. So a lot of support from everybody, friends, family, people that I played with back in the day, just from all over. So it's been really cool. And just I'm so excited for Jackson and his team. A lot of things have to work out for them to win the championship, and thankfully they did. And it's kind of fun to have Jackson join the state championship club with me. So
that was my
cool.
That was my next question, to have now that continue to be passed down in the family. How special was that for you to win a title? Now your son has done the same.
It's really cool. It's something you take with you forever. And it's more about basketball too. It's just the obviously the memories of the game, but lifelong memories he'll have with his teammates and people. People still remember our championship. So 30 years ago. So it's pretty cool.
We're watching, Steve, some of the moves he had, Jackson, that is, in the championship game on Saturday. Were there some of those that you had not seen before? Like, holy cow, he's bringing out stuff I haven't even seen.
Yeah, there was a couple there that were pretty amazing. Actually, one of his dunks there in the game, he took off, and I didn't know if that thing was going to go in, and thankfully it did. And yeah, and the one play, I think it was in overtime, where he took it full court behind the back, between the legs, Euro step. And again, that's against some serious talent there. Park Center is a talented team, great team. And, yeah, it was pretty wild. And that video is, I think, blown up on Twitter or something.
We were talking about off air. It's been viewed over 1 million times. We just saw that one highlight you're talking about. It's about 1 million views already.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's such a level-headed kid. What did you get the sense that he was like, did it hit him? Has it hit him yet of what happened?
He is. He's a very humble kid, very level-headed kid. The one thing that a lot of people commented on, even our family, is, even though it was back in the Thursday night game against Lakeville North, there was just something, the look in his face and the emotions that, he's pretty even-keeled kid, doesn't show a lot of emotion, and his facial expressions and some of his emotions in those games, it was almost like, I'm taking over and we're not going to lose these games. And it was pretty cool to see. So it's fun to see that progression from him.
To have that kind of performance when everybody's watching, that you've been in the cauldron before. What is that pressure like?
I think I actually think it's more nerve-wracking as a parent than it is as a player. I'm not sure for Jackson. Jackson's played in a lot of, not in front of that many people, but in a lot of big, the circuit he plays on in the summertime is pretty high level. And, but in front of that many fans, again, I'm just impressed with how he handled that. And it didn't seem to faze him too much. I think he did say, though, his first shot, I don't know if people see that, but his first shot of that state championship game, he threw a shot up that I think went over the backboard, and he said, "Yeah, I was a little nervous there to start the game." So.
Now, for people that maybe watched him for the first time, Steve, on Saturday, think, well, he's going to be a big college prospect. Well, this has been happening for over a year. Describe of this whole process, and now do you think this is going to be even overdrive for the next few months of what just happened this weekend?
Yeah, it's his elite skill is his shooting. I mean, at his size at 6'9", and being able to shoot like he can is really what is cracking the door open for a lot of these high major schools. And then obviously now as he's developing the handling of the ball, taking it to the hoop, that's just going to add to his level of talent, skill. But yeah, it's been busy. I mean, he has 7 current offers from schools, probably about 15 of them, talking to him consistently. There has been a little uptick since the weekend. But I don't, he's still pretty wide open in that process. He hasn't had a chance to, their schedules are so busy, and the colleges are busy to sort of time it where he can actually go visit. It's going to take a little time for him to really go and visit some more of these colleges to figure out where he wants to play and where, he gets a good feel.
Right now, the offers are Creighton, Xavier, Iowa, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Northern Iowa, St. Thomas. That's a pretty good. I mean, we just saw Creighton playing in the Elite Eight yesterday. Xavier's. I mean, just that alone. When I say, and there's more to come, as you know, but just those. What when I say that, what goes through your mind? Like, my son is going to be playing high major Division I basketball.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I tell people too. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, I think he's good and can probably play at those levels, but I don't know either. I mean, I think now that he's, you get that many offers from big 5 schools, things like that. I think it solidifies that he has that ability and skill. And then multiple of them are talking that they think he can play in the NBA. I'm not saying he is, but it's pretty crazy. And for Jackson, he's a good kid. He works hard. He spends a lot of time on his craft. He takes care of his body. Does a lot of strength and conditioning and things like that. He just eats that stuff up. So I'm happy for him in the aspect of just, again, he's a good kid, pretty humble kid. This stuff isn't getting to his head. Just for him to get that success on that big stage, I know how much he puts into it, and it was pretty cool for it all to happen.
Steve McAndrew joining us, former South UND basketball standout, on his son Jackson's state championship performance on Saturday night. I want to go back. I'm sorry to date you on this, but just the recruiting process for yourself and how much different it is now. I know it is. It's night and day. But what was that like when you got your first call or first letter? What was that like for you back then?
Yeah, so for us, it was obviously it was a lot more letters, that would come in the mail, and not as and then I guess phone calls. Now it's not as much mail, a lot of texting. Obviously, he's got way more people reaching out to him than I do. But what's kind of funny is there are several coaches that still do the handwritten letters. And,
no kidding.
Send mail, but it's funny because it'll sit on our table for a day or two because I don't think they're as excited about mail as they are, text and phone calls. So.
For you, how many letters did you get? And did you save any? Do you still have them?
Yeah, I do. I still have a box with all that stuff in. Actually, I've told Jackson the same, just, to keep that stuff.
Yeah.
To look back on. And, I have a whole box of stuff. My stuff was all pretty local. It was, North Dakota State, North Dakota, Concordia, Moorhead, and some of the Montana schools, Duluth. So it was pretty local to the area. I did find a fax sheet, I think, that kind of had a printout that I think was maybe sent or faxed to coaches that had like the top kids from North Dakota. And that was probably the only way that people ever knew about who we were outside the Fargo-Moorhead area.
Oh, man, that's great. Who was the first letter? Do you remember who the first one you got? Who was it from?
I think it might have been UND.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
I have had a chance to go back. I got here, Steve, in 2006, so I didn't get to see what the Hislop was. What were games like in that building, especially when you're playing the Bison? What was that atmosphere like?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was it was cool because it was a pretty compact arena, but everyone was up on top of you. So it was loud in there, and I remember my friends coming from different schools to watch, and they'd have to get their hours early so that they could be right behind the bench and things like that. So yeah, it was a pretty wild environment.
To see
the crazy thing that I remember about those games though is they were always usually they were at like 1:00, which was not normal for us. So that was a hard time to play, and it seemed like we never played probably for both teams played our best basketball because it was just a different time for us to play than playing at night. And I think a lot of the games we would a lot of times win at NDSU and lose at home. And so it was just kind of a weird deal, but a lot of fun.
To see it now where they're both Division I, you see where basketball has taken off, especially, you got Grant Nelson here who's getting an NBA look from the Bison. How different it is now from when you played?
Yeah, so I think, that both NDSU and UND transitioned well into that because I felt even when we were Division II, we were, in the Elite Eight tournaments playing at a very high level. Yeah. So I think that transition, and as you've seen, NDSU's been in that tournament, multiple times. Dave Richmond's doing a great job there, and UND's got in there as well. So it's fun to watch, fun to see those schools get into the tournament, root for the underdogs. It's always fun, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
All right, before I let you go, I know this is Jackson's journey that he's on. How much are for your family just to say, hey, you know what, this is a huge decision. It's yours to make. How, I wouldn't say difficult, but for being hands off, how are you handling this and just saying, we're here, whatever you need? I mean, can you describe that and what the process is going to be like?
Yeah, so it is, it's with the transfer portal and all those things, it's also very different. So yeah. I'm learning too. I'm learning how this works with all the transfer portal and NIL stuff, and which I'm not a big fan of. But yeah, we're leaving it up to Jackson. He's gonna have to be the one that he can't. Or I've already picked my school, so he's gonna have to pick his. We'll guide him. We'll do our research. I'm lucky to have a lot of connections in the coaching world that they're all good at giving me guidance as well, whether or not they go to school. We'll go play for those coaches and things. So, so we'll see. It's an interesting process. It is crazy nowadays. With, you just don't know what kids are going to be on what teams, what coaches are still going to be around. So it's a lot of, it's a tougher process, I think, right now than it used to be.
Steve, this was awesome. Thanks so much for giving us a few minutes. Congratulations. I know the last 2 days has been completely hectic. Let's do this again soon, okay?
Hey, I really appreciate you having me on, Dom. Thank you so much.
Good to see you, man. There you go. Steve
Okay.
McAndrew from Wayzata. His son, Jackson, standout of the 4A tournament. Steve, of course, no slouch himself on that state champion team with Fargo South and went on to play at the University of North Dakota. And, we've mentioned this several times on the show over the last couple of years about the level of basketball in the Twin Cities right now, both on the boys and the girls side. If you spent any time watching that, or if you watched that highlight that we showed you of what McAndrew did in the game on Saturday night, that will tell you exactly why the schools that are in on him, and more to come. There's definitely going to be more that are going to offer him. And much like the Riley Sunram conversation we had in the first hour, he's beyond the Summit League. That kind of move at his size, that's going to get you eyeballs opened up. I mean, literally, between the legs, crossover, Euro step, finish. At 6'9". It's not like he's 6'2". He's 6'9", and he's doing this. And like Steve said, it's not like he did it against a bad team. Park Center was the reigning champs. He's going up, pulling up, knocking down threes. I mean, this is what the level of talent he is, and it will be really intriguing to see what happens. He, along with Minnetonka's Andy Stefanowicz, there's another name that people will know. His dad, Rob, is the former Mr. Basketball from Divide County. His mom is Jody Buck, Bison Women's Basketball Hall of Famer. I mean, Andy's got an offer from the Bison. I think St. Thomas has offered him as well. Now, he doesn't have the size. I think Andy is 6'2", from Minnetonka. I think he had 23 in the state quarterfinal game that the Skippers lost to Eastview. There's another guy that just tearing it up down in the Twin Cities. The Bison think they got a heck of a chance there. Obviously, with the bloodlines there, that's a legacy offer there. They hope that they can get him to come. But the level of hoops, man, it's just outstanding and fun to watch. I mean, we had Owen Leach on the show last week. DGF lost in its state semifinal game to Albany, but Owen was great. And people ask me, like, the Bison in on him? Duluth was, and they got him. And he'll be a heck of a fit for Justin Wick's team in the Northern Sun. We're overdue for a break. We come back. We got a bunch of NFL news coming in because the NFL owner meeting is underway, including a bombshell that's come out of Baltimore. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns right after this. Welcome back, everybody. And this bombshell happened in our last 20, 25 minutes, courtesy of, well, he's still a Baltimore Raven, from Lamar Jackson, that he tweets out that a message to fans, then saying that he has requested a trade from the Ravens, which will certainly open some eyeballs. He says, in regards to my future plans, on March 2nd, I requested a trade from the Ravens organization, for which the Ravens has not been interested in meeting my value. Any and everyone that has ever met me or been around me know I love the game of football. My dream is to help a team win the Super Bowl. You all are great, but I had to make a business decision that was best for my family and I. No matter how far I go or where my career takes me, I'll continue to be close to my fans of Baltimore, Flock Nation, and the entire state of Maryland. You'll see me again. Now remember, Lamar does not have an agent. He represents himself here. The Ravens put the non-exclusive franchise tag on him last month, and now this has come. And March 2nd, so this is almost a month old that he has requested a trade. And, I mean, if anyone were to trade for him, I believe it's 2 number 1 picks that have to go to the Ravens. If you're to sit here and ask me as a Jet fan, knowing that Aaron Rodgers wants to play for the Jets, I would tell you I would go get Lamar Jackson right now and not hesitate about it. With his age, I don't care about his injury history. I know he's going to play for a while. Rodgers is good for a year or two before the revenge tour is over and he's done. I would gladly give up the number 1s for that guy. There is, I imagine, no shortage of teams that would want to have Lamar Jackson. Here's the thing, though. No one has stepped up to the plate. I don't know. People have already, yelled about collusion or things of that ilk. I don't know if it's that or simply because the Ravens have no interest in dealing him. I still don't know if it suits their best interest to. They have literally configured their entire roster around him. John Harbaugh has built his team around Lamar Jackson. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So that they would go in that direction, that would be odd, as in moving on from him. But if you don't want to be there, maybe he's not going to be there. It's just going to be fascinating to see how this plays out. Also, as we mentioned, the NFL owners meetings are happening. We'll have our annual shot of all the coaches. We'll play that game later in the week. The coaches are all speaking, including Robert Saleh, the head coach of the Jets. Of course, was asked about potential deal with Aaron Rodgers. Says we're working on it. Appreciate that. Packers are still playing hardball here, though they want a number 1 from the Jets. The Jets aren't going to give them a number 1 pick. So, but the Packers are not inclined to make this move happen any sooner than it need to. So we're stuck in this washing machine of cycle of endless speculation. Just get it over with one way or the other and make it happen. But now we've got something new to chat about, and that is Lamar Jackson's trade request from the Baltimore Ravens. So there you have it. The NFL also, I'm sure, will announce this week its overseas games. The international games will happen coming up this week as well. So I imagine we'll get a couple other, maybe some rule changes as well for this potential season coming forward. So we'll see. Going back to the ESPN story, the Ravens placed the non-exclusive franchise tag on Jackson, who represents himself and is able to sign an offer sheet with another team. If there is no offer sheet, Jackson could earn $32 million this season if he plays under the tag. If Jackson were to sign an offer sheet and the Ravens did not match, Baltimore would receive 2 first-round picks. That's as clear and simple as that. The question is, what teams would be willing to do that? Is Atlanta, Indianapolis, Carolina? I know they have the number 1 pick. Heck, anybody in the NFC South. Tampa Bay. New Orleans. I mean, you could just back up the Brinks truck on some of these guys. That would do that. And what we've seen are teams, the Rams have made this abundantly clear, and others have now followed suit, that they don't care about the picks. We got a chance to win now. Let's go do it. Not everybody is on board with that. Some teams have relented. Now, look, it worked for the Rams. They won their Super Bowl, and then they were god-awful last year when everybody got hurt. And they don't have any picks to rebuild the roster. That's the risk you take of trying to go down that road. So I'd be extremely intrigued to see where this plays out. And again, as I sit here on March 27th, free agency is pretty much done. What are we talking about on a Monday? NFL, Lamar Jackson. It's just fascinating how that works. We're due for a break. We come back. Another thing we talk on this show is Bison football. Pride of Shanley, Moorhead, Minnesota's Jake Kava will join us. Back for a 6th year with the Bison. He'll join us when Hot Mike returns right after this on WDAY Extra at InForum.com. Well, that shot makes it look like it's the middle of January instead of March 27th, but it is the 27th of March. Welcome back, everybody, to Hot Mike here on this Monday morning. At least that looks a little bit better, but it's not making me feel much better on this Monday morning. Back here in studio as we wrap up March and set for, I just got a tweet that the Masters begins a week from now. Yeah, that's great. Rub that in. Spring football is going on. Both University of North Dakota and North Dakota State. And it's our pleasure to welcome back in studio Shanley's own, Moorhead, Minnesota's Jake Kava. Good to see you, my man. How you been?
I've been good. It's like you said, spring football is getting started here in the middle of winter, it feels like. But it's kind of nice to have the new practice facility that we've been gifted with by our generous team makers and donors. That makes it a little bit, it's warmer in there than the bubble, so
you
it
make
feels
that
a little
work,
bit more
right?
like spring.
Yeah. So the last time you were here was shortly after you got hurt, if I remember right, in November.
Yep.
So give us an update. Where are you at physically? And you're back. You're going to come back for a sixth season here.
Taking my 6th year. I'm kind of taking it easy. Obviously being around for 6 years, like you've never learned everything, but I kind of have a better grasp on the defense. So more mental reps for me this year than physical. Obviously, I don't like to say I'm old because I'm still only 23, and my dad gets mad when I say that. But
I'll get mad too, there, buddy boy.
I am feeling a little bit older, so just kind of trying to get back 100% healthy. I'm getting there, not quite, but so just kind of helping. We got a lot of defensive linemen. I saw Kolpack just had a story out. I think there's 17 of us.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of fun to have. We got a full room. Got another coach now. A new coach Phelps is in full swing with us. So just kind of fun to be back and kind of get working again.
Well, Jake's back here with us. NDSU Student Athlete Advisory Council, the food drive drop-off. It's going on tomorrow up at the Shack, which I want to chat about here because I know that's near and dear to you here coming up later. But I guess we talked about, this was right after the injury, and I know emotions run high, like, okay, well, I lost out on a senior year. Did you ever waffle about, maybe I've done 5, maybe it's time to start real life? Or did you say, you know what, I want to do, if I've got it, I'm going to use it?
Yeah, right away. Kind of because my initial plan was to be done. And then you kind of, you think about it and just the way it kind of all went down. And I think the big thing for me is, obviously, I'm born and raised here. My whole family's here. So, if I was thinking about, okay, maybe I'm going back home to somewhere 1,000 miles away, I think that might have changed my decision a little bit. But just having both sides of my family here in Fargo, it just kind of made sense. And just everything this program's given to me, I was like, if I can stick around, at least maybe give some knowledge to some younger guys, even though maybe physically I'm not able to do it, but mentally if I can kind of pour back into these younger guys and help out the program. Because, just coming to NDSU, football is one thing that's been awesome. You win some national championships, make some great friends along the way, but just kind of the values and character stuff it's instilled in me throughout college. I think I speak for all the guys on the team. It's a special program, and that's kind of where I was like, you know what, if I can hang around for one more year and still be around Coach Kramer, Coach Entz, Coach Gazer, just to be around these guys and keep molding myself for a future, I was like, it's a no-brainer. So,
how difficult, you've already had to sit on the sideline once when you had your ACL injury. Describe last fall. That season obviously was weird. It was in the spring.
Yep.
You knew you were going to play a lot of football last year. When you got to the second half, into the playoffs, how tough was that?
Yeah, and it was tough.
I saw you before games. I could see it in your face, man. The pain was there.
Yeah,
physical and mental, I had to imagine.
Yeah, and it's tough. And obviously, winning cures a lot of ailments. So then, obviously, when you go to the national championship and we didn't get the outcome we wanted, I think that was kind of the first SDSU game sucked, but then when you lose the national championship and you kind of like sitting there like, gosh, like I could have maybe helped us win this game if I would have been healthy. It hurts, but also that also fuels you to come back. And like I think as the season went on and like seeing like kind of where I could see myself helping right now, it's like I gotta get back. I'd be back for next year better and stronger than ever. So I mean, it's definitely, it sucks, but I mean that's life. Life isn't fair.
Give me a sense of what the team is so far during winter workouts and spring ball. Is it angry, frustrated, both of how last year ended?
Maybe I don't like to use the word angry, just as kind of, but it's a different vibe, and I think it's good. I mean, one thing I've been like telling the guys is, you know, like you say you want to do everything. There's never been a team that's had to come back from losing, especially losing like that in a national championship. It hadn't been done before. Granted, that's not a good thing. Like we'd hope it never happened, but it happened. So I mean, somebody
was going to beat you guys. Eventually, it was going to happen.
Exactly. You know, it was bound to happen. We don't like to like think that.
No, but right.
So I think, you know, it sucks, but being able to be that team that kind of, all right, like your back's against the wall a little bit when you lose a game in the regular season. You lose the national championship. For us, anyways, we're like, holy crap, the world's falling. But then how do you pick yourself back up? And obviously there's some drama in the offseason that went on. It just kind of brought everyone closer together. And the guys that are still here now, like we'll bring in about probably 25 freshmen here in the summer, which will be fun to get them on campus. But the guys that are here now and kind of just, it's quieted down a little bit, which has been good. The last kind of 2 or 3 months have been really quiet. We've been able to just be in the weight room with Coach Kramer and Coach Edie and just kind of get to work. And now we'll put the pads on tomorrow and kind of get, I think Coach Roll's got power going in tomorrow. So, you know, it'll be a fun day. And we're just kind of, I think maybe Coach Kleiman brought this and Coach Enns kind of just get 1% better every day. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We know, obviously, you know, South Dakota State's got the target on their back now. They're the top dogs in the FCS, and we did go chase them down. So we're excited to do that.
I want to ask about, you mentioned the drama in the offseason. You know, you and I have talked about, you know, some guys are leaving, but some maybe are surprising. And maybe that was the case with a couple of guys, Dom Jones, according to Eubank. I'm going to name names, Kobe Johnson. As an upperclassman, how do you react to that? And how do you tell for the younger guys, hey, we're going to be okay? How did those conversations go?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Obviously, in college athletics, it's an unprecedented time right now. And like, I'd kind of talk, I got some older guys that were, like, I look at like James Hendricks, Ben Ellis, and like some of those guys, like I'll reach out to just like to ask for advice on how you, and like, I'd be talking to James Hendricks, and he's like, I wish I could give you some advice.
Never
he's
went
like,
through that, right?
We didn't have this problem when I was a senior. So, you know, it was tough. And I mean, for coaches, everyone, it's tough. But I mean, we're all adults. Like, we're like, even our freshman rate, like, we're adults. Guys are going to make decisions that they think are best for themselves, for their families. Their families are going to sway them one way or the other. And at the end of the day, like, you don't like to say it's a business. College football is a business. And people make business decisions. And, you know, we do have a really good culture at NDSU, so that's kind of just what and it hasn't changed. Like, just the landscape of college football has changed. Has it affected our culture a little bit? Maybe. It's affected everyone's culture.
Right.
You'd be dumb to say it's not affecting stuff. But the core of what we have at NDSU is still there, and that's kind of just what we preach to the younger guys is like, you know what? It's different now. Guys are going to make decisions that they think are best for themselves. But then, I'm not going to name names either, but there's been guys that have gone and left, and then I've talked to him on the phone. This guy, he was back for the semifinal game. He was on the field with us, and he's like, you know what? I thought I needed to leave for this reason. I wish I would have stayed. And I wish I could tell these guys, you know what? Grass isn't always green on the other side. And, you know, it's awesome, but stuff happens. You just kind of gotta. It's
an interesting perspective. You're on the inside, man, so I appreciate your perspective on that, because I think, you know, people can hear me on my show talk about it till I'm blue in the face. I think when they hear a player actually talking about it, I think it carries some more weight there. I am interested, because I was doing the stats on this, by the way. So you did spring ball your freshman year, 19. 20, there was none because of COVID. 21, we were playing. You got hurt. 22, you did it. And now 23, you're kind of going to do it. So you haven't got the full spring ball experience there.
Since back in, 2019, so I was with, like, Trey Lance was on
2019, man.
So it's been spring's never been really good. It's been bad the past 5-6 years, but
What is the biggest thing you took, like your freshman year, after your redshirt freshman year, 2018, where did you, so the spring of 19, what did you really take with you, say, okay, to get me ready to get on the field? How How helpful was spring ball, I guess
Well,
is the question.
I was playing linebacker in 2019, so I was kind of so for our fans, like obviously you, as a freshman or the young guys, you come in fall camp, you're getting double reps all the time. Once the season starts, when you're a freshman, unless you're one of like the 2 or 3 guys that play special teams or maybe plays, you're on scout team, so you learn South Dakota State's offense, South Dakota's offense. You don't run NDSU stuff except maybe for 5 minutes on a Tuesday in the middle of practice. So kind of that spring ball is you kind of get to go back and kind of learn NDSU's defense again. So it's a huge opportunity for our young guys, and then even kind of 3rd and 4th year guys to kind of just brush up on, okay, we're game planning against NDSU, but like it's more time to like kind of introspective and kind of self scout and stuff like that. So basically, it's just for young guys just kind of learn the offense again, but or defense. But yeah, no, it's a fun time.
I got a couple guys I want to ask you about the play your defensive position. Kelton McCaslin's one.
Yep.
Logan Larson's another. Is another guy I'm missing that could be for this spring for fans to keep an eye on. Say if these guys could potentially play a lot of reps for us this fall.
Yeah, honestly, Toby Anani,
butcher
his last name, but he's a big, strong kid.
Yep.
It's just, and that's a really cool thing about defensive line at NDSU is, granted, because of travel roster, you can't travel, but you can play 6 guys at each position. So that's 12. That's of the 17 guys, there could be 12 guys taking reps in the fall, maybe 13, 14, depending on what happens with injuries. So that's really and that's where it's kind of, because position like a linebacker, quarterback, like there's one that plays.
Right.
Defensive line, like there's kind of light for, even if you're on the kind of, not bottom, but farther down on the depth chart. There's still spots you can play on, run down past, like there's some opportunities. So just kind of getting, Toby Kelton's going to be a big, strong kid. Logan Larson got some reps last year. For guys like that, and especially having those guys with reps from last year, that's going to be huge for their future.
How big a deal is it to have number 53 back out there?
It's going to be huge. Yeah. He's one of the best players in the FCS, and just getting him fully healthy. I don't know. Obviously, he played in the national championship. I don't know how healthy he was.
I was going to say,
game.
how healthy was he in your mind, just watching him play?
He was able to play. That wasn't. I think Eli would be the first to tell you he can play better than that.
Yeah.
But that was his first game,
and going up against that offensive line, that's a heck of a task there.
We're really excited to have Eli back.
So you're here today, as I mentioned, for the food drop-off, the Student Athlete Advisory Council, which I know is a huge part of what you do outside of football. Tell us about what's going on tomorrow.
Yeah, so tomorrow from 4 to 6, so it's going to be kind of right at the south side of the shack, and that little turnaround kind of where there's like a 30-minute parking there for NDSU buys and games, which I don't know, it doesn't make much sense. But
I thought you were just saying that's my parking spot or Kolpack spot, one or the other.
Dom and Kolpack are there. They got their sign and stuff. So it'll be it's for the emergency food pantry. We're taking hygiene products and non-perishable food items, and then plus, if you bring stuff, you can't just show up and get the coupon. But we'll have there's 2 coupons. One's buy one get one from Sandy's Donuts, and there's a free chicken sandwich or chicken nugget meal at Chick-fil-A.
Hey.
So there's a little incentive to come bring some food, so you get a little, a little incentive out there. Yeah.
How big a deal is this played for you? I think we talked about this in November when you came on, but this is something, I don't know if you got roped into, but now that, you know what I mean? But it's become something really important to you, though.
Yeah, no, I definitely, it's kind of, so for anyone who doesn't know SAC, there's 2 representatives from every sports team, NDSU, and then we meet twice a month and just kind of go over we had the blood drive and now this. We did toy drive. But it's been huge. It's just another way to give back. Our community does so much for us athletes at NDSU. We are truly spoiled, just looking from like fans to the media coverage we get. For being a FCS kind of mid-major school, we're treated pretty Power 5-ish. So, it's another way just to give back and for us to, try to give back and be in the community and kind of, everyone comes and supports us. We should be out there supporting them just as much as we can.
So again, it's from 4 to 6 tomorrow, as Jake said, in the south parking lot of the shack. That different athletes. How many total are on SAC? Do you know?
So
you mentioned 2 each team, so it's about 20, right?
Yeah,
more than about that. That's pretty good stuff. All for the Summit League Food Fight, which is a competition between the league's institutions benefiting food banks in each of their local communities. So again, you're trying to beat SDSU here and USD and everybody.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Before I let you go, senior year, first game is going to be at US Bank Stadium, home of the Vikings. Tell me of the excitement about that. Of the tickets go on sale later this week about the game with Eastern Washington.
Yeah. No, we're pumped. Obviously, my first ever time playing in a game for NDSU was at Target Field in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And, obviously we have a huge alumni base in the cities, and I think Minnesota is probably one of the most represented states of guys on our team. It might be number one. But just to get out there, and I think that's the first college game ever being played at US Bank Stadium. Yep. So, I mean, it's going to be awesome. And playing Eastern Washington, obviously, they're FCS, a pretty familiar name. We've played them quite a few times, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're just kind of not trying to look too far ahead, but it's definitely in the back. And when I got hurt, that was another, like, okay, kind of doing pros and cons. Yep. Like, okay, we have a game at US Bank Stadium. That'll be pretty cool to play in. Obviously, that's probably the only NFL stadium I play in. My roommate Cody Melk looks like he might get a couple more games in NFL stadiums, but I'll get one hopefully. Yeah. But it's exciting, and it's just another thing. It's it'll be a fun weekend for our fans.
We got to go here, but we're going to be live at Pro Day on Wednesday. Yep. And obviously, I know you're roommates with Cody. What has been the one thing you've seen either online, on TV, or like just you gotta shake your head about? Has there been one thing that they've talked about and you're like, come on?
Well, do you see like there's like a meme going around that he was dating like Margot Robbie?
I did see that
one, and then it's like surreal just seeing like
he was the star of the combine.
Yeah,
we're down in Sioux Falls with the Summer League basketball tournament, and literally he's on TV like for 4 or 5 consecutive minutes. Yeah, that's a ton of time. Yeah, man. For an offensive lineman.
Yeah, and it's just crazy. Just he'll like send in like because his like Instagram, he's verified and everything now. He got the blue check mark, and all of a sudden like because like when we were in college, I had more followers than on Instagram, and he was like at 1,000 or whatever, and all of a sudden like he'd like send a screenshot and it'd be like 2,500, and a couple weeks later it'd be 3,500. I think now he's like at 6,000 or something. I'm like, all right, congrats, Cody.
It's going to be a thing, man. Yeah. It's going to be wild. I mean, we did the whole Carson Wentz. You were in high school when that happened. This is, I think, going to be even crazier considering him, the position he plays in his hometown.
Exactly.
I think
he's a little bit more local than
Carson. It's just going to be wild when this happens at the end of the month. It's great to see you. Glad you're feeling better, man, and we'll see you out at practice tomorrow, all right?
See you tomorrow.
Here he is, Jake Kava, NDSU senior defensive end. Again, the Student Athlete Advisory Council food drop-off tomorrow, 4 to 6 in the south parking lot of the Shack. We'll take our final break. We'll come back. We'll put a bow on a busy Monday. We'll wrap the show right after this. All right, we're wrapping up the show here. And you look at the standings in the NHL as we're down to the final, week plus of the regular season there. How about that? The Minnesota Wild are in first place after all this. After we thought they wouldn't even make the playoffs in early February, the Wild hold the number 1 spot in the Central Division, a point up on the Avalanche and the Stars. Remember, if you win your division, you're either the 1 or the 2 seed, and you get to play the 2 wild card teams. You avoid playing teams in your own division. Again, the NHL has the most convoluted playoff structure that they could possibly imagine. But as it stands now, the Wild will face off with Seattle, which is apropos of who they're playing tonight. This is who they have left down the stretch run, which starts tonight with the Kraken. Then it's the Avalanche on Wednesday. That's tough. Then it's Vegas back-to-back. That's tough. Then the Penguins, last time I checked, they're good. Then you end it with the Blues. You got 4 teams at the end you got to win. You got to win those last 4. The Blues, the Blackhawks, and the Jets and the Predators. You got to win those games. Because the next 5 are really hard. Starting tonight with Seattle. And the Kraken have been a pain for Minnesota to beat. They have had little to no success against them. And that's a heads up because tonight's game on What to Watch is on ESPN Plus or Hulu tonight. You cannot watch the Wild game on Bally Sports North. It's not because of Bally's bankruptcy deal. It's exclusive on ESPN Plus and on Hulu. That's how you can watch the Wild and the Kraken. Those Timberwolves are back in action tonight. 9 o'clock against Sacramento. It'll be another dynamite game. If we get anything like what we had last night with the Warriors, sign me up for that. 9 o'clock on Bally Sports North. And we'll find out the final 2 teams that are going to the women's Final Four. Maryland, South Carolina is the first game. 6 o'clock tonight on ESPN. That'll be followed by Ohio State and Virginia Tech in the second game at about 8 o'clock. We got to roll. Fun show today. Thanks to our guests, to Jeff Kolpack, Steve McAndrew, and Jake Kava. If you missed any of our program, you can podcast it later today at InForum.com. Everybody have a great Monday. We'll be back tomorrow for Bison tight end Noah Gindorf will join us for NDSU's Pro Day. We'll see you then on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra and InForum.com.